All right, let's fire into this then. It is Monday. It's time for the weekend wrap up of all the games at the weekend. A little bit of a random setup here. Cannot for the life of me find my tripod. Moving house, shit happened to set the camera up. So I've had to try and adapt and get the best angles that I can. And you got to adapt just like the top football players and the top football managers do. So let's fire straight into it. I want to start the weekend off by talking about Arsenal and Manchester City, the Super Sunday game that we had yesterday. Interesting game, wasn't it? It was an interesting game from the way that Arteta didn't seem to approach it in a way that everyone felt like he should do with the starting 11. If we take a quick look at Arsenal's starting 11, it's Raya in goal, it's Calafiore, it's Gabriel, Saliba and Timber, so that's fine. That's your strong back five, basically five centre-halves across the back with a really top goalkeeper. This is where it gets interesting. He starts with Declan Rice. He starts with Zubimendi, fine. He starts Moreno in midfield. And then his front three is Trossard, Gyökeres and Madueke. Funny enough, Trossard actually has an alright game in there. But as soon as the team dropped, immediately I thought, he's done it again. He's going to be a little bit safe and a little bit physical and a little bit compact with this team. Listen to Gary Neville's podcast. He said this too, and I thought exactly the same thing when I seen the team. You've got five centre-halves there, as I've said, plus a world-class goalkeeper. You've then got Zubimendi and Rice. So, yeah, sometimes you want Rice to get into the box and attack and things like that, and he can do that. But you've got Zubimendi and Rice. Do you really need to play Moreno in there as well? You've got enough there. That's 7 players that are going to be solid and can be defensive for you as well if you want to go with that. He starts Moreno, who he'll probably argue, obviously plays a little bit at number 9 last season for them and gets him some goals. He'll probably argue, I want him getting into the box and making runs into the box and he can get us some goals. Alright, fine. He starts Trossard off the left instead of Martinelli, who he's obviously not fancied Martinelli a little bit this season. He's making Martinelli come off the bench and he's been very impactful as he was again yesterday. And like I say, Trossard does have a good game, but it's a little bit more of a defensive left winger approach for me than Martinelli is. Madueke starts off the right. By the way, Footmob's got Madueke rated at 6.0. I thought Madueke had a great game, which I'll get into. But he starts Trossard off the left, Madueke off the right, and obviously Gyökeres through the middle. So as soon as the team drops, I just think, he's doing it again. He's not taking the handbrake off. He's playing it safe first before he goes ahead and tries to be attacking. And I think they talked a lot about this on Sky yesterday after, but he wasted the first 45 minutes. He really, really did waste the first 45 minutes. Haaland gets the goal. You know, a lot of people were saying online on Twitter when I was looking at halftime in the game, what a goal, Haaland's an unbelievable number 9 and all that. It's an easy goal. It really is an easy goal. He picks it up. Everyone, all the defenders and midfielders are around him. He drops it into Reinders, who commits and commits and commits, plays a perfect ball. Haaland takes one touch in the box and he finishes. That's what Erling Haaland does. That's where you need to get him. He's an absolute monster and a machine. Gabriel looked like he was running in water. He was wearing a weighted vest or something, chasing him down. I think Neville said on commentary, Gabriel and Saliba are two of the quickest centre-halves. Are they? Like, I think they're quite physical. Saliba might be a little bit, but I don't think I've ever thought Gabriel was pacey. Like, he's not slow, obviously. He's a professional football player in the Premier League, but I thought he's not that quick. So, that was the goal, and they find themselves 1-0 down going into the break, and he obviously then decides to bring on Eze, and he brings on Saka at half-time. Much to the Arsenal fans, joy, and everyone kind of thinking, yeah, but like I said, it really did feel like a waste of 45 minutes. Even throughout that first half, I thought City, it was very much Pep Linders, and you can see Pep Linders' influence on the City team massively. It's a lot of stuff like counter-pressing and counter-attacking off the ball. I've seen it for years under Klopp with Liverpool. Even their high line, when they concede the goal, which I'll get into, is Pep Linders and Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool 100%. But I thought City were really good. That they almost came and knew for the first time in a long time, we're not going to have the ball here and we're not going to try and dominate the ball. And Pep did say that in his interviews after the game, and he said, look, it's not what I would want to. I prefer have the ball. You know me, for my whole career, it's about having the ball. But today we felt like we had to do that, and that's an interesting switch from a City point of view. But he brings on Eze, he brings on Saka at half-time. It definitely makes a difference. Saka, it was okay, not great. Obviously he's not fit and everything like that. Like, I totally get it. But he said Madueke picked up a knock. He didn't feel great. Fair enough for bringing him off. I thought Madueke was the most impactful player in the first half. I thought he's looked really sharp and really bright since going to Arsenal, because I wasn't too sure on that. 50 million from Chelsea. I also thought I know Chelsea are a bit mad with the transfer business, but I also thought if Chelsea are going to sell him and are willing to sell him, then, you know, he can't be that good. But under a bit of coaching, he looked really dangerous, and for me was their best player and was where everything was going to come from. And, you know, he brings them on and they go for it a little bit. A bit of a nothing kind of second half, to be honest with you. City are very compact. They change that shape. They almost go 4-5-1, and they're almost kind of doing an Arsenal and saying, come in and break us down. And they're very, very physical. And they eventually they go and get the goal. It says he over the top, and Martinelli gets the equaliser. And you maybe felt, can they push on and try and get a last minute winner? I predicted them to win this game 2-1. And I really thought they should have gone and they should have taken the game to City and they should have got the ball down. And I think if he starts, let's just say Eze, because Trossard, okay, Trossard's not terrible and he has a good game, right? But let's just say he just starts Eze there, and it's Eze, Gyökeres, Madueke and Trossard up top with Rice and Zubimendi in behind. You can maybe ask Rice and Zubimendi to take turns on bombing forward as well to get into the box. I think you take it to this City team whose back five is Kushinov at right back. He's easily get at. Ruben Diaz is, doesn't really feel like he's the Ruben Diaz that we've seen in the last couple of years. Carvajal, who I do like and actually has a good game. And Nico O'Reilly, again, who's decent, but he's a young defender. Donnarumma, new to the league, although he actually has a decent game. I just thought you can go and take it against that City team, who, again, talking about them, they've started with Doku, Haaland, Reinders, Foden and Bernardo Silva, who, again, that's 5 attacking players there on the pitch, where Rodri in behind. Fine, you would say Reinders maybe sits in there with Rodri, but he's the more attacking of the two, right? So even City have picked kind of a bit more of an attacking lineup there than Arsenal, and to kind of go with it in the counter-press. Footmob actually has them kind of set up in that 4-5-1 shape. And yeah, on City, it was interesting. It was something that it was a trait that we haven't seen Pep really ever employ or have to employ in his coaching career because of how dominant he is on the ball. But as I've been saying in a lot of recent videos, I just think that time and that style of football is kind of past, and teams are over it, and it's on to the next thing, which I think is just really being adaptability and taking a lot more risks with 1v1 attackers and things like that. And I thought City just really interesting to see how Pep adapted to the game. I thought they were solid. I thought they were the feisty ones. I thought they were the physical ones. I thought they really nullified Arsenal's set-piece threat. They're big boys anyway. A lot of them are big. Haaland comes back from corners. Donnarumma, most goalkeepers are 6 foot plus, so when he's coming out and he can use his hands and he can jump up, he's probably touching about 7 foot there. And I just thought they nullified that from Arsenal, and they knew that was coming, and Donnarumma was really good at that. And I've got to give Donnarumma praise because he's a good goalkeeper. He does make good shot stops. It's definitely an upgrade on Trafford, no question. I think the some saves he makes yesterday, and also against Man United, that Trafford just doesn't make, and it's going to save them points. But he's a little bit of, what was he doing? Like, he's not quite connected with the defence. They're not quite connected yet in terms of the line and stuff they want to play. But where is he there? Where is he for the Martinelli lob? Look, it's a great ball. It's a great touch. It's a great finish from Martinelli. Take nothing away from it. And I can be quite harsh on goalkeepers, always have been through coaching. But I just wonder where you are there. I want my goalkeeper to be front-footed, but he just seems a little bit far out there, and he's never going to get it. The gap's too big, and maybe that's a bit more to do with the City line, which, again, as I said, is Pep blunders all over. It's backing yourselves to be offside and backing VAR, to be quite honest with you, to kind of call it and your line to be spot on and someone to be caught offside there. So, again, that's Pep blunders all over it, and City are, transitional out of the three. I don't... They're there for the taking, and that's really my point. And I think as Arsenal fans, you have to start to be a little bit frustrated. Does him making the subs at half-time with Eze and Saka mean that he kind of recognised that and he kind of thought, yeah, we did? But it was just a huge waste of 45 minutes, it's in particular at home. I get going away to the Etihad, even if City maybe aren't in the grace of form, you're wary of them, you maybe want to make sure you're in the game and stuff like that. But at home, I said it in the preview show building up at the weekend, they had to come and take it to them, and they didn't. And from a Liverpool perspective, brilliant to see. Best result possible. Both teams dropped points when Liverpool have got the win. And, he got questioned a lot on the midfield, Arteta, after the game, and he kept saying, I picked it in the midweek against Bilbao, and none of you guys questioned it. And it's kind of like, yeah, but that's an away... Again, it's an away European game. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it in specific games. It's just, this for me was the game, the moment to put City to the side, to put them out of the question and say, it's us and Liverpool, and we're right on your tails, and we're going to be coming for you, and we're going to be taking risks. and they just didn't do it again, and I would be frustrated. So Arsenal fans, let me know what you thought. City, very, very interesting. They're still dangerous. They've got the big man up top, but they're not great. They're not great, are they? They're not great, and it's actually interesting that I do still think they'll come third relatively comfortably based on how kind of Chelsea look, which we'll get into in a little bit. But if you just look at the stats, the momentum graph does have Arsenal kind of really a lot of momentum during the game. City have their moments, absolutely. But again, I don't remember too much going on. Arsenal have 12 shots. City have 5, a total of 2 big chances for Arsenal, and a total of 2 big chances for City. So again, a tight game, and these top games in the Prem kind of are a little bit like that now, aren't they? They're so tactical and not wanting to kind of lose before you win, which again, I'm just a bit the opposite. There comes a time in a game if it's late on, alright, you maybe walk away with a point, especially if you're the away team, and City will be hurt by that and feel like, a win would have been huge for them and a big boost for them. But I just think as the home team, you have to go for it, and they haven't done it, and it's going to be question mark after question mark if he continues to keep doing that, because based off his interview and his press conference, it doesn't look like he's going to be changing it. It really doesn't. He doesn't look like he sees it the way everyone else is seeing it. And I was having to think, like, what teams have won the league by being a bit more pragmatic and defensively? Mourinho's Chelsea team, probably Conte's Chelsea team, although they were pretty decent going forwards, but you would associate Conte in your head with being compact and quite tight anyway. Man United win leagues under Fergie, it's always open, expansive football. City, obviously, with Pep, is open, expansive football. Liverpool under Klopp is definitely open, expansive football. Liverpool under Slot is definitely a bit more open, expansive football. I don't think I'm missing anyone. Like, it's an outlier to win the league that way. Goals, it's always said, like, attack wins you games, defense wins you titles. Yes, but when you go too far one way or the other, and Arsenal are just so far on the defence thing the last 3 years, they just don't look like they're going to change it. And look, let's see, it's 5 games in. Maybe he'll adapt it and change it after what you've seen yesterday. Maybe what they do will be the outlier season that gets them over the line. But if you look at, I don't even think City, but if you just look at Liverpool, which we'll get into now, the goals that they have, and they're going to score 2-3 goals a game. All right, they're not keeping clean sheets necessarily, but Liverpool just feel like they have goals and risks, and they're going forwards, and they're going to create chances. Arsenal just don't feel like that. The handbrake is just on in a certain way. So let's see what happens with it. Let's see what happens. But a 1-1 draw. Liverpool with the half-12 game. Watched it. Went out Saturday. Went to North Berwick, Old Toos. Watched it in the pub with my brother. My Uncle Glenn joined us for kind of the last 20 minutes. Liverpool were absolutely excellent in the first half. Again, talking about handbrake off a derby game where you can be a bit cautious, but you're the home team. You've got to go and take it to them, and you've got to set the tone of the game. And Liverpool were absolutely excellent. Ryan Gravenberch and Hugo Ekitike, who get the 2 goals. Absolutely sensational. I'm going to do players of the week. Player of my week last week was Shankland. My player of the week this week is Ryan Gravenberch. I mean, sensational holding midfielder. Also getting forward. He used to play as like an 8 and a 10 as well. He's kind of multifunctional in that sense in there. He's been huge for Liverpool. What a turnaround there's. What a job from Slot to kind of coach him and get him to be that player. So he's player of the week for me. He was absolutely phenomenal. And the finish, the ball from Salah-esque, which we've seen in the last kind of 18 months, being the provider. And Gravenberch just does so well to loop it over the goalkeeper, over Pickford. It's just a sensational finish, and he was just everywhere off the ball as well. He does everything. He covers the spaces. He just does absolutely everything. Hugo Ekitike gets the second goal, and he's just been phenomenal. And he looks like he knows he's up against Isak, who's going to be the big signing for the bigger money, who's probably, you would say, when it comes down to it, probably going to be Slot's first choice. But Ekitike saying, listen, I ain't getting pushed out the way, and he's playing free. He looks like Torres, his body build, the way he moves, the way he plays. There's a moment where he has a little flick in the game. It's absolutely excellent, and he takes his finish well, and he's confident. And I tell you what, it's 2 hell of a number 9s that Liverpool have. It's obviously an upgrade on Nunez, and unfortunately, Diogo Jota, for how much I did love him, and obviously an absolute great legend at the club, especially with what's happened to him. It's probably 2 forwards that are upgrades on Jota and Nunez from last season. And yeah, Ekitike is just, it's no problem if he's starting games ahead of Isak, and he absolutely deserves it. And look, Slot keeps saying he needs to adapt to the league, he needs to learn it. Obviously, we know Isak knows the league and has proven himself 20 plus goals a season. But I mean, I can see Ekitike doing a little bit off the left if you want him to. So huge from them. Great first half from Liverpool. He doesn't start Florian Wirtz, which was very interesting, but if you really think about it, probably quite right. He's just not quite got the grasp of it yet. Wirtz, he doesn't quite know where he fits himself in a team. I always find it with number 10s, like, I think of, like, God, if I'm going all the way back, like Francesco Totti off the top of my head. But if I even think more recent times of Liverpool with Coutinho, and he kind of played a little bit more off the left and came inside, and it sounds like that's what Wirtz did at Bayern Leverkusen, and where people feel he's best fitted, just listening to podcasts and watching videos about people that do the Bundesliga stuff. But I always feel like a number 10, it's really hard to like fit them in the team sometimes and work out like they want the ball all the time and they're the guy that it dictates and goes through. But if they can't quite find their spaces and quite find where they want to go, they're almost a bit wasted. And the midfield just looked a hell of a lot better yesterday in balance with Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai, who obviously is the midfield three last season. So they know each other, and Wirtz doesn't, and that's obviously something to think about too. But it looked a lot better, and even for a derby game where you think Everton are going to try and make it a bit physical and do that, those three in there, McAllister for his size is very strong. We know Szoboszlai's got the energy, and I've talked about Gravenberch, and he's a big, tall, lanky boy. The midfield just clicked a lot better without Wirtz, and I've obviously said Ballon d'Or winner and stuff, and maybe a bit caught up in the price tag and that. But in my head, I just thought Arne Slot in Liverpool, and listening to how he was at Feyenoord, and he was a number 10 himself, I thought everything's just going to go through Wirtz, and he's going to be getting the goals and assists, and he's going to be unlocking teams. And it hasn't happened yet, and Szoboszlai and McAllister and Gravenberch are the ones that know it and are doing it well in there. So really bold call from him too. Look, there's a lot of games as well, a bit of rotation, and Liverpool have the ability there to rotate. He brings him on, and funny enough, he does play off that left-hand side. Has a couple of little moments, but again, struggles to kind of get into the game. So huge call from him there. Huge call. And then again, from a Liverpool point of view, it's 2-0 up. And, Jack Grealish had a decent game. I thought Connor Bradley did defend him really well, really, really well. You know Grealish is gonna get by you, but you have to play tight to him, and you have to accept there's going to be one or two times he's going to spin you. And he does that, but I thought overall Connor Bradley and the boys handled him really, really well. He puts in the ball back post. It's a great little touchdown from Ndai, who's a great football player. And it's a great finish from Idrissa Gueye. I mean, it takes a lot to beat Alisson, but it's hit it hard. It's almost in the top corner, I think, pretty much. It's a great finish, 58th minute, and Everton came back into the game when Liverpool went 2-0 up, and you could see Liverpool sat back and kind of had that in their head about the whole 2-0 thing. But I was saying this to Matthew in the game, and if I have a little look here at the kind of stats and everything there, if we look at the momentum graph, after Liverpool do go 2-0 up, you can see Everton have the full momentum heading into half-time, and then again, really in the start of the second half, scoring the goal and including after it, and then it kind of is a bit even out. Liverpool come back into it for about the 70th minute for about 10 minutes or so. But if you look at it there, 11 shots from Liverpool. It says they've only really had one big chance, which is probably the Ekitike goal. Would you class Gravenberch as a big chance? Probably not. But it's got Everton as 0 big chances, and Liverpool had this a lot last season too, where even if it was 2-0 and stuff like that in games, it's kind of like that boxing. It's keeping them at arm's length a little bit. Yeah, it was Everton had the ball and they had the impetus, and Liverpool were sitting a bit deeper. I can't remember a ton of saves Alisson has to make, and I think the big chances says 0. I think when you're in it and you're watching it and you're feeling it, it's totally different. And then when you take a step away from the game, and I was thinking about it yesterday and this morning before doing this, did Everton really threaten that much? And I think the answer is no. I don't think I'm looking at it from a biased red goggle eye. Like, yeah, it felt a little bit nervy, and at the end, the ball goes out for the throw in there, and David Moyes is running along the sideline and trying to get Everton going, but Liverpool kept them at arm's length for me, to be honest. And yeah, absolutely, I'd rather have that stayed at 2-0 or they gone 3-0, but it didn't feel like, it wasn't like a battering, and it hasn't felt in any of these games like a battering. So, I think Slot will look at it from that sense of view. But Everton, again, looked good. They have the attackers. They start with Beto up top. It doesn't really work. I think that move works a lot better when you're playing at home, and you can dictate the game more, and you've got your home fans there. I think at Anfield and playing away, look, there'll be moments in games where it does work, and sometimes the game pans out that way, but it just didn't on Saturday, and it didn't quite work for them. And the difference was they obviously bring on, what was the boy called? Is it Gary that they bring on? What a name, by the way. Yeah, Barry. Thierry Barry. They bring him on for Beto, there's not a lot of change. There's not a lot of difference, and we know Liverpool have Ekitike and they bring Isak on and Wirtz off the bench. So look, Liverpool are the more stacked team. They're the better team. They've spent all the money, absolutely, and the gulf was huge between the two clubs. But yeah, I didn't think Everton did too well, and it looked like there was a lot of complaining, and a lot of moaning about time being added on and stuff. And Liverpool again are just in that zone, as I said last week, where I just remember saying all the same things about Fergie's Man United team, and they kept chugging away, and they kept winning, and they kept winning league titles, and they kept doing well in Europe, and they won a couple of Champions Leagues. And it becomes a DNA of the club, and that's just the phase that Liverpool are in right now. And yeah, it's really enjoyable to sit on it from this side. But yeah, I think that's my overall thoughts on the game. I thought Van Dijk's battle with Tarkowski was brilliant. He really enjoys it. It's been unbelievable this year. I think Van Dijk's always been on it, but he looks really, really focused to retain the league title. It's something this squad haven't done. And I think he can play for a couple more years. He doesn't look like he's dipping off at all. He's maybe not quite the 1v1 defender that he was, but he's aged and he's had his ACL injury. And I thought Kanate was brilliant again. So yeah, solid from Liverpool, really solid. Kerkez had another really good game, and Everton will be absolutely fine this season, and they should be looking to aim to float around in that top half and maybe sneak into a Conference League spot, if not potentially a Europa League spot. So good performance there from Liverpool. It's another 3 points. It's 5 from 5. I think the next game I want to talk about before I look at the rest of the Prem fixtures is just Rangers and Hibs. I had a fair few pints and had it on in the pub after. There was no volume or anything. I was sat a bit away from the game, but I was very much keeping my eyes on it. It looked the best Rangers have played for me. There was obviously the protests outside. The banner goes up in the stadium about, we might win, things might improve, but we want Martin gone, along those lines. But it was the best Rangers had looked. It's ironic, Raskin, who everyone's been saying, why is he not playing? Get him in the team. He needs to sort this out and everything. He kind of runs the show when he gets the opening goal, and wonder what the problems were. There's a lot of the conspiracy theories that he's leaked formation and tactics and stuff like that. I mean, I really don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but there was obviously something between them, and Martin's put his ego to the side anyway and has played Raskin, and look, it could be a huge turning point for them and for Russell Martin, but I thought they looked really good. In saying that, I think if the Hibs goal stands, it's similar to Shanklin, right? They're the break. Sometimes they go for you, sometimes they don't. If the Hibs goals stand, they're in a lot of trouble. They are in a lot of trouble. Hibs are just playing the way the Hibs play. They're a bit direct with the two up top. Not to say they don't knock it around. I really do think Hibs would have gone on to win that game 2-0 or 2-1, and it would have got really, really toxic in there. A lot of people would have left the game, and the attendance was already a bit low with people boycotting it. But again, that's football, and it's a moment for Rangers and Russell Martin. They absolutely deserve it. It's the best performance they played. He said they simplified the game. He simplified it to players with what they were trying to do. And I think those style of managers, those philosophy style of managers, used to watch it, can sometimes really, really overcomplicate things. And you just think sometimes just let the players play. Yeah, just let them play. There's principles there. There's things there. But just let the players play. And he sounded like he did that. And look, now it's their job to go and build off of it. The one result is great. He'll feel a lot of relief in that. You could see it in his press conference. He's obviously a lot happier. It's a win. And your job now is to go and build off that. But they deserve the credit for as much as he's been really, really had the piss taken out of him. Probably absolutely unfairly. It comes to the job. It comes with the level, the prestige that you're at managing Rangers. But it's been really, really heavily criticised. And when you win a game and when your team plays well and when he puts his ego aside and brings in Raskin back into the team, and it gets him the win, then he absolutely deserves credit where it comes from. So well done to Russell Martin, well done to Rangers. Let's see if they can kick on here, because they really need to start doing it domestically. I always find Cup in Europe's a nice little distraction and can really help you quite nicely. It just feels different. Even when if we've all played games and that, you play for teams and you get a cup game, it always has a different feel. It's usually midweek or something, and you're playing on the pitch, and it just always has a different feel to it. So really good. They just need to take that momentum on and try and keep that going. Back on at the Premier League, just back through the weekend games to wrap everything up. I'm not probably going to go into the Scottish games really too much. Motherwell obviously beat Aberdeen. They're really struggling, but I'm not going to go into the Premier Sports game too much. I don't think there's too much to go on to them. The other games, United Chelsea, I didn't have that on. I requested for the Rangers Hibs game to go on in the pub instead of United Chelsea. Sanchez gets sent off so early for taking out Obuemo. Casemiro gets a stupid second yellow card for pulling down Santos. Rain's pouring down there. I said it. I knew Man United would win that game. I just don't think Chelsea are great. Neville said it. I've watched the highlights, but I didn't watch it. But Neville said it in his podcast. He was at the game that Chelsea, just the pattern stuff and knocking it around the back. And yeah, Maresca's I do like Maresca. I think he's in a weird situation there, just with how Chelsea are doing things and the players, and there's just the team switches every week. I just don't think you win anything that way and progress that way. But he is a bit of a Pep, boring type of style manager, which I think he's just missed that era coming into it. And I just, Palmer comes off, he makes all those subs, the attacking subs after the red card. Palmer apparently is injured again, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the way Chelsea are doing things. I just don't think it's going to work for them. And I've said I still think are they going to be the fourth best team? Like Newcastle are struggling for results a little bit. Spurs as well are in the mixing games. They obviously draw 2-2 with Brighton this weekend. But I think the teams that are typically, when you're coming fourth, are typically teams that are inconsistent anyway, right? The guys at the top are always the most consistent. And as you start to go down the table, your consistency drops. So they maybe are the fourth best team, Chelsea, but I don't know. And look, the keeper in the back five, the back four, every time I think about it, it's not getting you anywhere near the kind of Premier League title challenging even. I said that they might sneak into it. I kind of fell into that trap a little bit at the start of the season, but I'm just getting up their starting the team here, right? So if we go into it, I've said for ages, Sanchez not good enough. It's it happens sometimes. Mad things happen. He gets sent off, but sure, Reece James is great, but he needs to prove himself that he can be fit for a season. But it looks like he's great back there. Fofana is okay. Chalobah is okay. Cucurella is okay. It doesn't get you to a league title challenge. That it needs to improve. And for all the attacking players, they keep rotating around in and out in the transfer window. They've got to focus and got to improve on that there. And I said earlier about defense winning you titles. They're just really unbalanced for me. I think Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo is a solid midfield too. It's great. That's a midfield too that can challenge you for a title. Palmer obviously in the mix when he's on it. Neto I like, but Estavio obviously still young, and João Pedro is decent, but is it enough again up there to quite have a title challenge? It's not going to be. They're not going to be up in the mix, and they're going to be really inconsistent. Getting on to United, as I said, I called it. I knew they would get the win. By hook or by crook. It allows Amorim to breathe. It allows him to get a win under the belt. It allows a bit more time to build. Look, they've got Brentford away next game. I think it's the 12:30 on Saturday. Yeah, they could easily go ahead and win that. But again, I can see them dropping points in that game too. He hasn't won back-to-back league games yet, I don't think. He needs to rectify that and get that win there. Bruno, again, the star man, kind of playing in that too, but it would be all interesting if Chelsea didn't go down to 10 men, and Chalobah's header makes it a little bit nervy for them a little bit there. Sesko starts up top, doesn't look like he did too well. He gets a 6.4 rating, and Buemo has a bit of a poor game, but he's struggling with 10 men after obviously Casemiro goes off. So yeah, I don't think there's really too much to say about it. United get the win. Fair play to them. As I said, I kind of knew they would, and Amorim can kind of go for it. Some great little David Brent videos going around about Amorim and his system in there. Let's run through the rest of the week. Like I said, Brighton 2, Spurs 2. Put that as both teams to score my coupon. And yeah, that's not an easy game. Don't get me wrong. I watched the highlights there. Spurs have chances, but Brighton have chances. The Brighton goal. Is it the second goal to go 2-0 up? Vicario has to save that. And Vicario, I'm not too much of a fan of him, to be honest with you. I think there's an upgrade there that can be done for Spurs if they want to continue to try and push into Champions League spots. He'll make too many mistakes for you. Burnley and Forest, it's 1-1. Great point for Burnley there. Great point. And Ange obviously trying to get things going there, work things out, get his style on there. Let's see how that plays out. But it's a rash call. West Ham again, just really, really sad and poor. Graham Potter's not lasting. Let's be honest. He's gone at the international break, isn't he? He really is. Look, Palace, no shame to losing to Palace, who have been great, but they're just poor. He's not going to last. And West Ham, like I said, they're turning into that Everton. They're going to start floating in around that area, and you just have to be careful when you start doing that. You really do. It's poor. Really poor result of the weekend is Wolves at home to Leeds. I've said they're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. Great win for Leeds. Great win for Daniel Farke. They'll be absolutely buzzing off of that. But it's really, really, really poor for Wolves, especially going 1-0 up there. And they're in a world of trouble, guys. They're going to be in the mix there, and it gives the likes of Sunderland, Leeds, and Burnley a little chance to have a team that's pulled in there. Fulham with a good result against Brentford. Again, I probably would expect that. I think Brentford went one up, didn't they, in that game, and Fulham at home. You just never know what you're going to get with Fulham. They're always going to float around that kind of 14th-ish place, maybe pushing up to 12th, 11th. So it's a good 3 points. Sunday games, I was really excited for Bournemouth Newcastle, and I thought Bournemouth would come and they would put Newcastle to the sword and beat them quite comfortably just after Newcastle having an energetic Thursday against Barcelona. Bournemouth did look lively, but oh god, it was an absolute snooze fest, that one. I eventually did flick over to Sunderland Villa when Sunderland equalised. They obviously go down to 10 men, and that's a great point for them. Villa get their first goal. Again, keeper should do better for Matty Cash's hit, but Bournemouth Newcastle was really, really poor. Captain Semenyo on my fantasy team is expecting a bit more from that. But again, it's one of those, Areola, will he take the point? I think Eddie Howe will probably be happy with it after Europe. You probably take that away at Bournemouth, who are decent, who are, on floating and up in that top 4 right now after the 5 games. But Areola will be disappointed. They should be going to win that game for me, and they had enough to win that game with energy-wise, but they just don't do it. And that kind of wraps it up. That kind of does all the games. Look, this one's going to be up for free. I'm always going to pick one a month, and I think just looking ahead to the fixtures, this is the one with the Arsenal game and the Liverpool and Everton game. I just think that said a lot about the 3 top teams this season. I really do. I think Arsenal are a team that are needing to take the handbrake off. City clearly are a team in transition, and I don't think are going to be able to push any of those 2 far enough. And Liverpool are the team that are retaining the title. And like I say, albeit people keep saying they might be fortunate to be where they are where they are. And they have the attacking power to continue to do it. And you only think with Gravenberch and Van Dijk and Kanate and Alisson in goal, Bradley, if they get that consistency down, Kirke is getting a bit better. Liverpool are only going to get better at seeing out games for me. They're not going to get worse, and you can already see it in moments and in halves and stuff like that. And it's gonna click at some point where they're going to be a lot harder, and they kind of entice you in a little bit. They do. So I think that really said where the 3 teams were in the summer, and it says where they are now. And Liverpool are the team to go catch, and Arsenal I think need to take the handbrake off if they wanted to go catch us. So yeah, Reds are top of the league. That'll do it for this one. As always, if you see this on YouTube, this is usually for a subscription only. I'm going to launch the Patreon starting next week. I have a grouped page. So, grouped and Patreon are just going to be a little bit different. There's a fantasy football thing with grouped. I'm just going to run them alongside each other and just see where we're at come the end of the season and see what people gravitate towards more with just the videos. Do they like the group stuff with the kind of article-y stuff when I post it with the videos? So, yeah. We'll see where it goes. So if you like this stuff, you can subscribe to that subscription service. I'll start pumping out promos and free weeks and free trials once there's enough content on there for you to check out and give it a go, which will be in the next few weeks for sure. So if you listen or watch these, as always, thank you. If you're new, like and subscribe, do all that type of stuff. It's Monday. I had to adapt. I had a stressful little morning in a moment trying to find my tripod. I can't for the life of me find it. So we've adapted. We're sat in the new living room in the flat. We'll get the shed and the man cave studio up and running in the next couple of months and make that the home and start consistently filming videos in there and get the boys involved in games and do streams after games. I'm going to start doing live streams, all that type of stuff. I can't wait. Just building slowly, progress. You have so many ideas in my head, but it's about closing that gap, that creative gap, and eventually what I have in my head, it will start to be on a weekly basis. And also going to get some more personal content out rather than just kind of a review and a preview show, but it's all getting used to it and working it out. So enjoy the week, start it off well, and as always, until the next one, peace.